I was a snaggle-toothed third grader. Nevertheless, standing in front of the congregation, I proudly and boldly proclaimed, "Arise, shine, for your light has come," Isaiah 61. It was my first coronation as a GA. For those of you who did not grow up, Southern Baptist, GA was a girls' auxiliary organization where young girls learned about missionaries and their work on the field, and you worked on these steps every year to work your way up to a coronation at the end of the year. There were 6 steps. I see some of you nodding your head. You were a GA. It went all the way from maiden, which was the first step, to Queen Regent, which was the highest you can get. I stand here, Queen Regent. I must confess, though, I had no real clue as to what that verse meant in my lady-in-waiting year. It might have made some difference if I had used the entire verse and added part B to that, which says, "For the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." But to an 8-year-old, that probably would not have helped so much either. Arise, shine, for your light has come. Was that something like my dad used to say on a Saturday morning to get us up? Rise and shine and get your 4-day coffee. I didn't know what 4-day coffee was. I still don't know what 4-day coffee is. Or was it like the song we used to sing at camp about Noah building the ark, and the refrain was, "Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory"? You remember singing that, I'm sure. Maybe that song is a little bit closer to the meaning. But here we are this morning, this 8th day of Christmas, this first Sunday of 2011, Epiphany Sunday, with the actual date of Epiphany being Thursday, January the 6th. And lo and behold, the text is from Isaiah chapter 60, and the memories came flooding back as to when I first memorized that verse as a child. And to be completely forthcoming to you this morning, as a child, I never truly understood Epiphany. Oh, I had heard about the visit of the Magi bringing the gifts to baby Jesus. But understanding that the meaning of Epiphany was the celebration of God made manifest to everyone, had no clue. So today, I'm going to attempt to bring these 2 passages of Scripture together with the hope that we leave here this morning with a greater understanding of what the prophet Isaiah meant when he said, "Arise, shine, for your light has come. The glory of the Lord has risen upon you." God's light shining in the darkness, and the promise that darkness has not, cannot, will not overturn it. We have just walked through Advent. We have celebrated Christmas. We have beheld God's glory in the Christ who has come to be with us. Or have we? And if in fact we have, does the celebration stop on January the 6th? Is it back to routine and normal? Or is it possible that we might have an understanding that this good news is something that we can celebrate all year long, right up into Advent of next year? And if so, how would we do that? I believe that our scripture passage today tells us what we are to do. It tells us why we should do it. And it tells us what will happen if we should decide this morning, this is a good thing to do. It begins with 2 imperative commands: arise and shine, or get up and go. Go where? Do what? Something, anything. And why? Because the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. When Isaiah wrote these words so many years ago, the Israelites had been in captivity in Babylon for over 70 years. King Cyrus had come from Persia down from the north to take over Babylon, defeated the Babylonians, and then freed those who had been held in exile for those number of years. And he told them, you can go home now. Go back to Jerusalem. Rebuild your city. Arise, shine, for your light has come. As I was reading about this passage, one commentator wrote, I wonder if they got up and ran, or if they just sat there like caged animals that all of a sudden find the door to their cages open. But because they had been so habituated to confinement, they did not know what to do. So they just sat there. Were they able to understand the enormity of what had happened to them? Do we really understand the enormity of what happened that day when the wise men went to visit the baby Jesus? I began asking myself some questions. What if the wise men had never followed the star? What if they, like the scribes and the religious leaders, just sat there trying to figure it all out but never did anything about it? They ignored the star. They ignored the calling of God on their heart. They didn't get up. They didn't go and follow. And then I thought, could this possibly describe any of us in the church today? We have the good news. Are we content where we are, just sitting here trying to figure it all out, wondering if we really need to get up and go anywhere to discover anything more? Do we really understand the part of that verse that says, the glory of the Lord has risen upon you? I tried saying it a couple of different ways to see if it made a difference. The glory of the Lord has risen upon you. The glory of the Lord has risen upon you. The glory of the Lord has risen upon you. All three amaze me, frighten me, intrigue me, really. And so I wanted to know more. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure that I today grasp the enormity of that statement any better than I did when I was 8 years old. But as I began to study this idea of God's glory, I soon discovered that I was in pretty good company. Do you remember Moses? When Moses was on the mountain meeting with God, he asked God to reveal his glory. And God said, you cannot handle seeing my glory. But Moses, if you will go and hide yourself in a crevice on the mountain, I will pass by, and all my goodness will pass before you. But I will place my hand over your face, because you cannot see my glory and live. And when Moses came down from the mountain, his face was shining, because he had been in the presence of the glory of God. Do you remember King Solomon, who was praying in the temple, and he was praying to God? And in 2 Chronicles 7, the scripture says that a big cloud filled the temple. The glory of God filled the temple, and the people could not enter it. And they, on the outside of the steps, lay prostrate, worshiping and praising God. Do you remember the time Jesus took Peter, James, and John up on the mountain, and they fell asleep? And when they woke up, they saw Jesus in all his glory, and standing with him was Moses and Elijah. And they immediately said, let's pitch 3 tents right here. And suddenly a cloud appeared. And out of that cloud, the voice of God said, this is my son whom I have chosen. Listen to him. And the disciples fell down on the ground in fear and did not talk about that for a very long time. These are just a few of the examples from Scripture that talk about the magnificence of God's glory revealed. And each one of these amazing things happened because those who saw the glory of God were changed. I wonder this morning, can we even grasp the magnitude of the statement, "The glory of the Lord has risen upon you"?